My daughter stopped talking to me when she was only 12 years old. For years, she believed I had abandoned her. The worst part was that no matter how many times I tried to explain the truth, she refused to listen. My name is David. When my daughter, Sophie, was born, she became the most important person in my life. I loved spending time with her. We went to the park together, watched movies together, and talked about everything. She was my best friend. Her mother, Lisa, and I were married for many years. But our relationship slowly started falling apart. We argued more and more, and eventually we decided to get divorced. It was one of the hardest decisions I had ever made. Even though the marriage ended, I promised myself that I would always be there for Sophie. I wanted to be a good father, no matter what happened. At first, everything seemed fine. I visited her every weekend and called her almost every day. Then things slowly started to change. A few months after the divorce, Sophie became distant. Our phone calls became shorter. She stopped answering some of my messages. Whenever I visited, she seemed angry. At first, I thought she was struggling with the divorce. I understood that it was a difficult time for her. But the situation kept getting worse. One day, I arrived at Lisa's house to pick Sophie up for the weekend. When Sophie opened the door, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. Then she said something that shocked me. She said, "Why did you leave us?" I was confused. I told her I had never left her, but she shook her head and said her mother had told her everything. Before I could explain, she closed the door. That was the first time my daughter refused to come with me. As I stood there, looking at the closed door, I felt completely helpless. I had no idea that someone had been telling her lies about me, and those lies were about to change our lives for many years. After that day, things became even worse. Every time I tried to contact Sophie, she ignored me. I called her, sent messages, and even wrote letters, but I rarely received a response. Sometimes months passed without hearing a single word from her. It broke my heart. I wanted to be part of her life, but it felt like an invisible wall had been built between us. Meanwhile, Lisa continued telling people that I had chosen my new life over my daughter. The truth was completely different. I never stopped trying. Every birthday, I sent a gift. Every Christmas, I sent a card. I hoped that one day, Sophie would realize I had never forgotten her. But as the years passed, she seemed to drift further away. Watching my daughter grow up from a distance was one of the most painful experiences of my life. Years went by. Sophie became a teenager, and then a young woman. By then, we barely spoke at all. I often wondered if she hated me. Even so, I never gave up. Then one day, something unexpected happened. A mutual family friend contacted me. During a conversation, she mentioned that Sophie had recently started asking questions about the divorce. Apparently, she had found some old documents and noticed that parts of the story did not make sense. For the first time in years, she seemed curious about what had really happened. When I heard that, I felt a small sense of hope. Maybe she was finally ready to hear the truth. Maybe the lies she had believed for so long were starting to fall apart. What I did not know was that Sophie was about to discover something that would change the way she saw her mother and me forever. A few weeks later, I received a message from Sophie. It was the first message she had sent me in years. My hands were shaking as I opened it. She asked if we could meet and talk. I immediately agreed. When the day arrived, I went to the cafe early and waited. A few minutes later, Sophie walked in. She looked nervous. After we sat down, she told me she had found old emails, letters, and court documents while helping her mother clean out some boxes. The documents showed that I had fought hard to stay in her life after the divorce. They also showed that I had never stopped trying to see her. Sophie looked at me and asked why nobody had told her these things before. I took a deep breath and told her everything. I explained how I had tried to visit her, call her, and stay involved in her life. As we talked, I could see tears forming in her eyes. Then Sophie told me something that broke my heart. She said that, for years, she had believed I did not love her. She thought I had chosen to leave and start a new life without her. That was what she had been told over and over again. But now she knew the truth. She knew that I had never stopped fighting to be her father. She began crying and apologized for shutting me out for so many years. Hearing those words was emotional for both of us. I was not angry at her. She had been a child who trusted the people around her. The real problem was the lies she had been told. For the first time in many years, we talked honestly. We laughed, cried, and shared memories. As I looked at my daughter sitting across from me, I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Hope. But the biggest conversation was still waiting ahead, and it would change everything. A few days later, Sophie decided to speak with her mother. She wanted answers. She wanted to know why she had been told things that were not true. The conversation was difficult and emotional. For years, Lisa had blamed me for the divorce and allowed Sophie to believe that I had walked away from her. Now the truth was finally coming out. Sophie was hurt and disappointed. She realized that she had lost many years with her father because of misunderstandings and false stories. It was a painful moment for everyone involved. But sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. After that conversation, Sophie called me and asked if we could start over. Hearing those words meant more to me than I could ever explain. Over the next year, Sophie and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. We spent time together, shared family memories, and created new ones. We could never get those lost years back, but we could make the most of the years ahead. Looking back, I realized that anger would not have fixed anything. The truth did what anger never could. It brought the truth to light and gave us a second chance. As for Sophie, she learned an important lesson about believing only one side of a story. And as for me, I finally got my daughter back. The little girl who once stopped talking to me was now part of my life again. Lesson: the truth may take years to come out, but when it does, it has the power to heal broken relationships. Always listen to both sides before making a judgment.